Good morning! Hello, bliss lovers. How are you? Welcome to this video. I'm getting ready. I'm running a fraction late this morning, but welcome. I'm excited to talk to you about how changing your relationship with God will not only change your life, change your reality, but help you to manifest like a pro. And I must admit, folks, when I really dived into this, I was like, holy cow, this is massive in terms of helping people to assimilate so you can get everything that you want. Now, I want you to notice how it feels in your body when I say that you get to have everything that you want. Because a lot of times for people, that actually brings up fear. And what people are afraid of is they're afraid of being powerful. But let's dive into this because your relationship with God is personal, it's unique to you, it's like nobody else's, but it's probably going to have been affected by your upbringing. So, whether you were religious or not, whether you went to church or not, those kind of things are going to have an impact, especially if you went to a church and there was any form of kind of control and domination, which made you feel guilty. Because one of our biggest issues as such, folks, is that we feel separate from God. That I'm over here and God's over there, or I'm down here and God's up there, which is a very childlike way, but it's also true because we're in God, we're in the mind of God. God is everywhere. God's in me, God's in somebody else, God's in somebody else. And even notice if you don't like the word God, you have to ask yourself, why? Where does that come from? Why do I have a charge on that word? There's probably some kind of imprinting from the past where God's not necessarily associated with being kind, loving, and who you are. It might be more powerful, wrathful outside of yourself, and not necessarily you feeling like you're in a harmonious relationship with God. But here's the truth, folks. There is nowhere you can go that God is not. God is there, bidden or unbidden. So, what happens is people come onto the planet, often too, depending on their experiences, they grow up and to a varying degree, they feel separate from God. Even your body can feel like a form of separation. And then they go out and they try to create something that they want, and they feel like God is deciding whether God gives it to them or not. So, what can happen? Like, say you want something, you have a desire, and then what happens is you go to pursue that desire, and then it becomes a situation where you're like, why am I not getting it? And then we can have a tendency to blame God. God's not giving it to me. God doesn't love me. God doesn't like me. I must be doing something wrong. I'm being punished. Now, this is often not something that you're walking around in your mind thinking. It's something that's very internal. And what you don't know and what you don't realize is that, of course, as you have heard before, but you may not have, the penny might not have dropped, is the kingdom of heaven is within you. What does that mean? It comes from the Bible. What does that mean? It means God is inside of you. We all talk about the heart and the heart being the central processing unit of all the chakra system. It has its own intelligence. It is a portal to the divine. God beats your heart. That is source energy. And everybody's often so busy looking outside of themselves to pursue their desires, when if they actually stopped and took time to look inside of themselves and ask themselves, who am I being? Everything could change in an instant. Because we're brought up this way, folks, right? We go through the education system. You're told that your mind is your most valuable asset. You've got to use it to go out into the world and create. And then if you're fortunate, you might have had a spiritual awakening at some point and start realizing, oh my God, I am not who I thought I was. I'm not my body. I'm not my mind. I'm not my thoughts. I'm this infinite consciousness who has all the power to create what you desire. What you need to start understanding about your relationship with God is there is no external. Everywhere you go, God is there. You are God in a body. You are this consciousness. This is literally how God experiences itself by extending itself through 8 billion people to have the experience of all those 8 billion peoples, because God is oneness. And how does oneness experience itself? It has to create duality, right? And God is experiencing itself through you. Now, why is this important? Because what happens is if you haven't got your relationship with God or the universe lined up in the right place inside of you, you're going to always think that your desires are out there. Excuse me. You're going to think, I have to go out there. I have to get the certificate. I have to get the accomplishment. I have to achieve. I have to effort my way to success. Now, if you are familiar with God, God doesn't effort. God creates. God is absolute. So that means if there is a creation, of course, it's done. Look around you. It has all been created. So when you start to understand this, you start to understand that you have huge power available to you. But you have been giving it away. You've possibly been having a codependent relationship with God, thinking, oh, how does it show up? Oh, I love this one. I'll just wait for a sign. No offense to people who do that. I used to do it myself. But then you're like, it's like you're saying to yourself, I'm just going to wait for a sign that I'm going to give myself. Right? As opposed to, no, I am the creator. I will step forward and create. And this is the responsibility. Now, the beautiful thing is the universe gave you free will, so you can ignore this consciousness, infinite intelligence that can create all your desires from the inside out. You can ignore that if you want to, your whole life. Or you can step up and take all the responsibility for the creator energy that you have inside of you and create an outrageous reality. And our reality that is so uncommon that people snap their heads, right, and go, how is that person doing it? They're doing it through consciousness. They're doing it through God. And this is why, right? Like if you, and you know this already, you know God is powerful. You know that you are powerful. But, hello folks. Hi Lisa, how are you? I'm just looking at my Facebook Live so I don't miss comments. Do you understand this? Because what happens is most people are afraid of their power. Most people are going, oh, God's powerful, and if I'm a good person, then God will give me something. And God doesn't actually respond to your moral code, folks, because if you have noticed, the universe is actually in loving acceptance of everybody. Everybody. Even the people that you think are dreadful, the universe is in loving acceptance of. And we are being asked to love and accept others while simultaneously keeping yourself safe, because don't be stupid. But, right, the universe gave you the power, and most people don't take the initiative, right? And if they did, they would be working with consciousness, and consciousness helps you to create everything you desire, because people think mistakenly that they're creating it. Right? What the universe is doing in a very clever and infinitely intelligent way is asking you to cultivate your relationship with frequency. Frequency is also another name for God, folks, because when you work with high frequencies, you're working with high infinite intelligence. That infinite intelligence is you, it's part of you. This is why when you start working with the universe is going to give you the download, right? Because you're giving it to yourself, because you're initiating and saying, yes, I'm available. Give me the download So the universe is having this symbiotic relationship with you because it sees you initiating and it goes, here, do this. And you do it and you get a crazy outcome. But most people feel uncomfortable with being that powerful. Most people are like, oh my God, does it get to be that easy? Yes. But you have to be free of fear in order to do that. You have to be fearless. And how do you do that? You cultivate your relationship with yourself, with infinite intelligence, with God, because God is the solution. God is the energy of all your desires, folks. You think about what you want: the car, the relationship, the money, the amazing job, the friends, the connection, the family life. The universe is going to help you to create all of that. And if you see the universe as separate and outside of you, because often too, people are praying to God. This is another area, right? And it took me a long time to figure this out too. They're often doing it from codependency. They're like, please, God, please give it to me. But the universe is often like, and then you can feel like the universe is not responding to my prayers because the universe is like, have you forgotten how powerful you are in terms of creating it? And if you go to the universe and go, please, God, give it to me, what kind of message are you sending yourself? That you're powerless? You want to go to the universe in the energy and attitude of, thank you so much for this because I'm claiming it as mine. Now, a lot of people are like, oh, you can't do that. You can't be that bold. You can't be that outrageous with the universe because they are having this moral dilemma that I have to be a good person, or I can't have too much, or I can't be too greedy, or I can't be too powerful because it might upset other people. Guess what? The universe doesn't give two hoots about your moral code because it doesn't have one. It is oneness, which is loving acceptance of all things. And it watches us experiencing this disconnection where we are not in loving acceptance of ourselves. So what we are doing is we are often looking for loving acceptance from other people rather than understanding it's right here, right now, because you get to give it to yourself because you are that. Like, this is why your moral code can be one of the number one things that is messing up your relationship with your ability to manifest. If you think you have to earn it, if you think that you are not deserving, if you think that you have to prove something to yourself or somebody else, namely God, right, you're just going to hold yourself in a cycle probably of sacrifice, of being a martyr, of being a person who's like, I have to give and give and give before I'm allowed to receive. And it's all bullshit. You don't have to earn anything. You're already deserving, which can be a real mess with your head, right? Because if you have lived your whole life being a good girl or a good boy, a good person, I'll do this and then I'll receive, which has been created from your own awareness. It definitely hasn't been created from source energy. It probably has been created from your parents. And that imprint that I have to be a good person, and if I'm good, then I'll receive. And this is often really prevalent for women. Let's give and 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 give. And then you end up feeling resentful. And then you realize even worse when you actually take it back metaphysically, you're doing it to yourself. Because you're not allowing yourself to go first. You're not allowing yourself to be the person who makes themselves their highest priority. You're not allowing yourself to live from a place of pleasure and having that be your priority, because it is a pleasure to be connected to yourself, which is God. Most people are, and also trusting and having faith in yourself is having faith and trust in God, this infinite intelligence inside of you. We make it so hard for ourselves, folks, because we try and lead ourselves from the mind. If you just let the universe, God, lead you from the inside out, your life is going to get infinitely better. But that also requires letting go of thinking that you can do it better than God. Because often what happens for some people too is they've had negative experiences, and then what happens is they end up feeling furious with God. God's let me down. God wasn't there. And then where does that leave you? Because that's you. And often this is very strange, especially if things happen when you're a kid. How do you reconcile that? And that is a journey from powerlessness back into power. Because healing your relationship with the universe, which is healing the relationship you're having with yourself, every time you do shadow work or you do healing, you are healing your connection with the infinite, which is high frequency, which is going to help you to create all the outcomes that you want. Excuse me. Please stop outsourcing God. Yes, God is more powerful than you are and always will be. But God gave you power, right? Because God is within you, and the sense of separation all the time. I can't create what I want because I'm separate from God. No, 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 no. You are never separate from God, and you can create everything that you want. But often too, right? Like people are like, ooh, ooh, ooh. If I was really that powerful, what's going to happen? Right? Is it okay? Am I allowed? To give yourself permission, folks. This is why people are doing this all day, every day. They're either giving themselves permission to be wildly powerful and to move with the power of God, or they're hedging. Oh, yeah, maybe. Like if you started moving like the power of God is within me, how would you be showing up? And again, if you still have a charge on the word God, what does it take to like just clear the energy out of the word? Because you are God, right? There is no separation. And when you understand this, that I am high frequency and I get to move from a high frequency, all my desires become inevitable. The game simply becomes how much can I use my imagination to create the next thing, because you'll be so busy moving from this infinite intelligence that's going to show you exactly how to create what you want. Because you literally can, folks, click your fingers and manifest outcomes. But what do you have to do that? You have to believe in yourself, which is believing in God. You have to trust yourself, which is trusting God. You have to have faith in yourself, which is faith in God. There is no separation. The deeper you go into your relationship with yourself, the deeper you go into God. This is why, like, your spiritual awakening is a massive invitation from the universe. Hey, time to wake up. Remember who you are. Start walking with power. And often too, right, it's an assimilation process, so you can let go of all these constructs that you've put around yourself. I have to do this in order to get this. That doesn't apply when you're starting to work with consciousness, with spirit, with God. God can help you create something just like that. And I'm sure you've all had experiences where money has turned up just like that. Now you think about it, at the moment, your manifestation might be itty bitty, right? Or maybe it's more substantial. But I want you to think about the frequency of big money consistently, which is usually what I'm helping entrepreneurs with, is either to jump to a higher level. They're already at a consistent high level and they want to go higher. Or if you're seeing a lot of up and down, right? That's showing you something about your relationship with yourself, because it's showing you something about your creator ability, right? You want to smooth that out and then go up to the next level, right? You want to see consistency in your manifestations, which is consistency in your faith and trust and power in the universe, in yourself. Because the universe gave you power. You decide what you do with it. And what the universe responds to is certainty. So if you show up and go, yep, that's mine, the universe responds to that. Like God's looking at you right at this moment going, what are you choosing next? Often too, right? Like your angels will look at what you're choosing and have no judgment on it. But I tell you what I have learnt is there is no judgment on what you're choosing. So you might as well choose the best. And this is where the brain kicks off, because the brain goes, is that even possible? Can I have that? Is that allowed? Right? Based on all your past experiences. Because from the universe's perspective, there's no hierarchy, right? Like manifesting a cup of coffee is the same as manifesting a Lamborghini because the universe doesn't attribute meaning the same way that we do. So if you're going to have a cup of coffee, manifest it, the Lamborghini is available. It's the same thing from the universe's perspective. So when you get this awareness, like, of course I can manifest a cup of coffee, of course I can manifest a Lamborghini, but what you have to work through is what you have made that mean. Is it okay for me to have a Lamborghini? Will the neighbors like it? Will it upset anybody? Will it fit in my garage? Am I allowed it? All those things start coming up. But what we're talking about here, folks, is power and your ability to lead yourself with power because it's all available to you. But nobody gets your results, right? You do through your connection with source energy. That's why you want to be besties with infinite intelligence. You want to be besties with consciousness. You want to be besties with God. And in fact, like you have to, and it's a weird thing too, right? To know that God is more powerful than you, but you're God. You're in God. There is no separation. Remember, I've talked before, right? Like, looking at the 1% or looking at the 99%, your focus matters. You're either focusing on your powerlessness or you're focusing on your power. And often what happens when people start stepping in, like situations that they don't prefer will present. Like, say they start working with me and then they get a good bill. And I'm like, this is awesome. Why? Because you're being invited into being the frequency of the person who can pay it easily. And you need to do the work of calibrating to be that person who takes care of it. Who yeah, this isn't a problem in my world because of course I have access to limitless abundance. I am limitless abundance. I can create on demand because I'm God in a body. But it's the hesitation. It's the fear of actually being that powerful. What will other people think is often one of the biggest fears. And the irony is, folks, when you think about it, truly, we're all connected, right? We're all in the mind of God. So it's available to everybody else. But it's up to you whether you initiate or not. So if you want it, you can have it. And so can everybody else. So instead of looking externally again, coming back and going, who am I being in relationship to my power? Who am I being in relationship to being the creator in my reality? If you don't like what you have created, folks, you get to be invited into an upgrade because that's what you're choosing. And your focus is really important. And this is one of the things that I help people a lot with is shifting your focus because often too, if you've had situations and you feel really disappointed, it's very difficult to feel powerful from a place of disappointment. You need to shift your focus and you need to shift the energy of disappointment. And I'm sure, right? Even talking about it, you've had plenty of times and places where you're like, what am I doing wrong? Why is this not working? My manifestation wand is broken, which is kind of like saying I'm broken, which is not true. There is nothing outside of you that creates your reality. Nothing. No person, no thing. It is your relationship with source energy, which is why when people work with me, I'm helping them with their relationship with source energy, which is really helping them with their relationship with their own power. Because it's not my place to tell somebody what to do, but God can tell you. Because God knows exactly what's right for you. God knows the desires of your heart. God knows all your past lives you've ever had. God knows exactly where you are in relationship to your desires. God knows how close you are. God knows if you're the energetic match. When you really think about it, infinite intelligence is just mind-blowing in terms of knowing all of that. And when you know yourself as a match to your desire, it's delivered. Not because God gave it to you, because you are God, right? You took the initiative. You grabbed the power. You ran with it. You stepped in. You said, this is mine. And the universe goes, yes. The universe is always saying yes, folks. You think life is shit, the universe goes, yes. Because you are God, right? Like where you place your attention, you place your focus, that's what you're concentrating on. Attention is an alignment. What you focus on is what is becoming. This is why you can't continue to focus on life being crap and expect to create everything that you desire. Also, it's not true. Like in spiritual terms, there is no problem. And until you have that perspective, you're probably still operating from ego. And that's why we need to do the work, right? To shift out of ego, which creates separation between you and God, you and the truth of who you are. Collapse it so you can remember who you are, you can remember how powerful you are, and you can move with power. I want you to really let it land. I get to create everything that I desire. Right now, your awareness might be going, I don't know if I believe that. Because of the relationship that you're having with yourself. You change that relationship that you're having with yourself, you will come to be a person who knows that to be true. And I want you to think about it. Because I'm going to ask you this question and then I'm going to explain it to you. Has God ever let you down? Right, and your brain might automatically go, yes, because that shouldn't have happened. Right? It shouldn't have played out that way. That person shouldn't have behaved that way. Right? But what if you signed a soul contract to say, yeah, I'm choosing that experience because it's going to help me shift into my greatness. Right? Like a bigger perspective, a wider perspective, a more universal perspective. That you literally have everything that you need to overcome every single perceived obstacle in your life and become more powerful than anything that's ever happened to you. That's the contract that you signed. I'm going to remember who I am. Yes, and maybe these situations are going to happen, but I'm going to remember who I am, and I'm going to take my power back, and I'm going to move with the power of God, and I'm going to create an extraordinary life. I'm going to be an example for others. I'm going to move with the power of God, because that's who I am. When you could collapse duality in relationship to God, you will manifest like crazy. Because instead of going, there's something outside of me, there's something that's got more power than me, God's got more power than me, that's putting you in a very codependent relationship with God, as opposed to like, no, God's within me. God's not a guy in a chair sitting on a throne in the sky. It's right here. It is frequency. It is guiding me. I make the decisions. I decide. I move. I get to have what I want. And the universe says yes. But you have to continue to show up being that person. You have to continue going, yes, of course I know my outcomes are given. And that is the work, folks. Because often left to your own devices, right? Your ego will just go and take you back. Right? Like, because the ego will create separation again. The ego will go, no, it's not safe to be that powerful. No, you can't create what you want. This old identity energy, right? It will take you. You have to learn what it is to become more powerful than your lower selves. And if you're not creating what you want, if you're not creating outrageous outcomes, you're not there yet. Because that's available to you. If that's what you want. But also too, folks, right? Like if you are still in any form of self-judgment, self-criticism, self-attack, that's your ego. Your ego is having fun with you, right? It's messing with you. Because when you are creating what you want, there is no self-attack. When you are creating what you truly desire, there is no judgment. And that's often a leap for the ego, because the ego's like, oh, if I start driving around in a Lamborghini, people are going to think I'm up myself. It's just a story. Often people are like, oh, I can't be rich because God won't like it. Right? Like I'll lose my humility. No, if anything, you'll just be more grateful to the universe, grateful for yourself, living in more gratitude, having a deeper relationship with your divinity. Right? And understanding, right? There is no separation. Of course I can have what I want, but I must move with power, the power that the universe gave me, the power that I am, to create the money, to create the outcomes, to create the dream holidays, to create the consistent income in my business, to create all my desires. It's all available for you. But the way through into that is a relationship with yourself, with God, that works for you. Because often too, right, I've seen it so many times where people have been disappointed and then they feel angry with God, which is being angry with themselves, and then they keep on putting their power outside of themselves. I have to go and find it. I have to go and chase it. When you understand metaphysics, you get to be it. You get to be the person who attracts all your desires. But that's a massive shift inside of yourself and understanding who you are. And a lot of times people still go outside of themselves. When you go outside of yourself, folks, you lose power. Because the external world is even more of an illusion. Right? You really want to start thinking like there is no external world. I'm the creator. I create it through what I'm seeing, through what I'm projecting out into the world. So make sure it's epic. Of course I make the money. Of course I call in the opportunities. Of course I get to have it. I get to have the experiences. I get to have the freedom. I get to have the time freedom. I get to have all of it because I'm choosing to be that person. And the universe is always saying yes, yes, have it, yes, be it, yes, experience it. Of course it's yours. And that's the thing, folks. Often, a lot of the time, when we're calling in a desire, for a lot of people, it can feel really big, right? Make it normal. Make it small. Make it like, yeah, of course I get to have this. No biggie, right? This is my new normal for me to manifest large sums of money, to have consistent high income in my business, to create the opportunities and the resources in order to bring this project to life, whatever it may be for you, to have life unfold from massive creative energy, because God is creator energy. You look around you, like God is prolific at creation. All the people in the world are creating from source energy, from God. They think often, a lot of times, they're creating it. And this is where you start to realize, right, the universe doesn't have a moral code. Somebody that you deem as a not nice person can still create insane outcomes. And then we can look at that and go, well, I don't want to do that because I don't want to be a bad person. That is ridiculous logic. Of course you're not going to be a bad person. You're just going to be you with more money. Money is an amplifier. It just amplifies who you already are. So to be the person who's like, of course I get to have that. There is no difference between you and people who have money, except for the money. They're just like you. They have light and dark. They have their shadow. They have their fear. They also have their light. They have their joy. You get to have those experiences. But again, if you see yourself as separate from rich people, you will keep yourself broke to justify your own moral code. Right? Oh, I don't want to be a bad person. Okay, cool. You stay not being a bad person and broke. Right? Because you could still have exactly the same fears as a rich person. Like, let's say you had $0 and you think $100,000 is a lot of money, and you're like, oh, stepping into that, oh my God, is that going to make me a bad person? But then you create that, you're not going to think that you're a bad person. You're probably going to go, oh, if I make $1 million, is that going to make me a bad person? No, same thing. Money doesn't determine who you are, right? But it's responding to who you're being. If you're being certain, if you're being confident, if you're being bold, if you're being fearless, if you're being like, of course I get to have that. And this can often go against the very heart of religious, dare I say, indoctrination, which is you need to concede. You need to submit. You need to know yourself as humble in relationship to God. And this is why it can get wildly uncomfortable for people. Like they have been taught you need to give your power to God, which is not really true, because it's like saying somebody standing in front of you and saying to you, I'm telling you that you actually need to give your power to me because I'm the one telling you that you should see yourself as less than God, which is literally you should see yourself as less than who you are. Because if you see yourself as less, then it's easy for you to be controlled. It's easy for somebody to take your money. It's easy to keep you in fear. It's easy to keep you in a place of shame where you don't get to create what you want. So you keep on going back to this person who tells you that you should be less than, to reinforce this into your psyche, that you need to have this deep reverence for God, instead of understanding you need to have a deep reverence for yourself. See how religion can take your power away from you? It is wild. When clients come and work with me, often it can feel uncomfortable sometimes, right? Because working with a coach, you can kind of in your mind think, they're more elevated than me. They're not, right? And if clients come and work with me, I'm not there to be more powerful than them. I'm there to help them to know how powerful they really are, right? It's my job to help them to step into their power. I already know that I'm powerful. I don't need somebody else to validate that, right? That's been my own journey. But with my clients, that's actually why they come. Because they need to learn how to take their power back from the external, from other people's opinions, from religious imprinting, to come back to a place where they know themselves as God, because they're having this deeply personal relationship with the infinite intelligence inside of them, and they get to have the answers at any given moment on what to do next, because their connection with Source is so strong and so clear. Of course they know what to do. Of course they know that they're not separate. Of course they always have the answers. Of course they create the outcomes that they want. Of course they step into millions. That's normal. If it's not normal, something's not aligned. That's it. And I really want everybody to understand this power is available to you, but you have to initiate. You have to be the person who's like, yeah, I'm going to make this happen. Yeah, I'm going to get what I want. Because the universe gave you free will. So, are you using your power effectively? Are you creating outrageous outcomes? And if you haven't spoken to me about intuitive mastery, next Tuesday, the price will go up to the final price point. And I'm not offering it again in this format. And it's actually 2 programs in one. You have your video library, and then I'm going to show you what it is to be the person who matches their desire. So it's a very great time to join Intuitive Mastery. In the future, it'll just be the video library. There won't be any live coaching along with it. So folks, how are you feeling about your ability to create what you want? It's all available inside of you. Nobody can give you your outcomes, folks. You have to claim them for yourself. You have to be in the energy of a little bit of grit and perseverance. I'm going to choose to have this experience, and then I'm going to make it happen. And I strongly encourage you not to do that by following your rational mind. You are going to get there so much quicker and faster by cultivating a relationship with consciousness that creates it. Because everybody's walking around going, look at my creation, thinking that they've created it. No, Source created it through you. But that's why it gets to be effortless. Like often people think, oh, that's just a marketing ploy in terms of manifestation. No, no, manifestation does get to be effortless because you are simply allowing the awareness to come through you from the mind of God. You're like, I might not know, but I know the infinite intelligence that beats my heart knows. So I can ask, receive an answer. Boom. Literally, folks. I had that experience not that long ago where I was like, had a download, put it out there about asking people if they're in the UK, and then created a VIP day from it because infinite intelligence sees everything. It knows everything. So that's a really good place to go in terms of helping you to create your desires. Like if your intuition tells you to go do something, do it. Like if you've been working on manifesting the love of your life and then your intuition says go to this place, you go to that place. Because that's your awareness saying that's what we're matching you up with your desire. But you must collapse this idea that you are separate. You must start moving like you have the power of God within you, because you do. You must start commanding and let go of any shame that you have in your relationship with your own power that somebody else might have installed there to control you, to keep you in a place where it's like, you have to be humble, right? In my relationship with Source Energy, I know that God is crazy powerful because I've had so many experiences where I've seen it. I would never assume that I am that powerful. Never. But I also know that I'm incredibly powerful and I get to create everything that I want. Look at it this way, folks. Like you're one of 8 billion people on the planet. Just think of the version of you that's created insane outcomes and the level of frequency that that is. Multiply that by 8 billion and you might be starting to touch on a slither of the power of the universe. Insane levels of power available to you when you're willing to develop this relationship with yourself. To stop buying into the fact that you have any form of limitation, to stop looking externally for the answers and know that they're inside of you, to start listening to the infinite intelligence that beats your heart to create outrageous outcomes. I have never seen it fail anybody, but most people are afraid of being that powerful. They're afraid of being the person who can click their fingers and get what they want. Because what happens? What happens when you do that? And again, that's going to be your mind possibly telling you a story if there's any form of fear there. But when you know who you are, it's just like, oh, of course I want that. Of course I want to create everything I desire. Of course I want to be in the experience of that. What else is possible? How far can we take this? Right? And that is when your soul lights up and you feel amazing because you're living in the energy of expanding into your full potential. And that makes your soul happy. That's when you experience bliss frequencies because you're like, I'm having the time of my life. There are no obstacles between me and my desire because you're the one who's bringing it. So check your relationship with the universe. Are you understanding that you are not separate from massive, massive power? Power that you can't even comprehend. Are you applying it? Are you using it? Are you allowing this intelligence to show you what the next step is? Not from a place of like, oh, I have to, but from a place of like, the universe is going to help you get there so much faster than your logical mind is. Because this is infinite intelligence. It has all the answers. It knows exactly what you want. It knows exactly what you're looking to create. It can show you the shortcut. Why would you do it from your mind when you can do it from your soul? And have it be fun and joyful as you do it. So, take some time to think about how is your relationship with power? Because God is power and God is inside of you. No matter where you go, that power is still there. But you know, you get to strike the match and have it burst into flames and have your whole life change, which it can do instantaneously when you are working with the power of God. I'm sending you so much love, everybody. I will look forward to reading your comments. I'm sorry I haven't been able to see them. If you're watching this on YouTube, do come and join us over in the Facebook group. If you are on my email list, I have just sent out some Black Friday specials. So to be sure to take a look at that, because this is going to literally help you do exactly what we've been talking about. In the meantime, folks, I'm sending you lots of love. Take good care of yourself, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.